In this video, we're going to go over how to graph quadratic trinomial equations that are in standard form, um, that have the a value of 1 or -1 on quizzes. So let's start with the first graph, the parent graph, y equals x squared. Now, we've done this in our notes already, so let's just review. How do we graph y equals x squared? Well, we could, back in our notes, we did it with the input-output table, an xy table, and we simply plugged in consecutive integer inputs. We started by plugging in 0, and when you plug in 0, 0 squared is 0, and that's an actual coordinate. That's what we call the vertex in this case. It's the most important point. It's a location 0, 0, okay? And then if you were to plug in a 1, if you think about plugging in a 1, 1 squared is 1. Then if you plug in a 2, well, 2 squared is 4. And if you plug in a 3, 3 squared is 9. So if we plot those points, 1, 1, it's right there. 2, 4, that's right there. 3, 9, it is up here. And as a matter of fact, on quizzes, you're going to be dragging and dropping actual coordinates like that. But we'll do that later on a future example. Right now, I'm just drawing them on there. And if you went to the negatives, you could plot the other values. Or you could recognize that there's an axis of symmetry going right through the vertex. So that means you'd be able to map that point over to the other side and put that dot right there. And then mapping this one 2 units away over the axis of symmetry, which would be 2 units over here on this side right there. And this one would be 3 units away. 1, 2, 3 would be right there. And that would be your answer to this question. I simply ask you to plot 7 points. Plot 7 points. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Is this the easiest way to do it, making an XY table and plugging in numbers and pulling out answers? No. Once we understand this parent graph, I mean, technically, you're supposed to, if you were drawing it on paper, you would draw your parabola right through it and you would put arrows at the end of it, right? But right here, we're just plotting 6 points. But anyway, once you graph and understand this parent graph of y equals x squared, you should know that the a value, if it's +1, like this one is, if the a value, the number in front of the x squared is +1, that means it's going to be exactly this width. It can't be wider. It can't be narrower if the a value is 1. The a value determines how wide or how narrow it is, in addition to whether it opens up if it's positive or opens down if it's negative. Probably how wide or how narrow it is. So because the a value is 1, any other parabola, any other quadratic that has the a value of 1 has to be exactly this width, which means that we could use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9 from the vertex. So wherever your vertex is at, you could put your vertex 0, 0, and then from there you could go 1 over 1 up, back to the vertex 2 over 4 up, back to the vertex 3 over 9 up. Now, yeah, these are the actual coordinates 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, but wherever the vertex is at, what if your vertex, like, let's just say the vertex would be like right here, and let's say the a value is 1, that means that you would be able to use a pattern of 1, 1, put a dot there, back to the vertex 2, 4, put a dot there, back to the vertex 3, 9, put a dot there. And then you could map them over to the other side. So the lesson here by graphing this parent graph is to memorize the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. And we'll even in the future modify the outputs of a new pattern. But anyways, right now we just need to memorize 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. And if the a value is positive, it's going to be opening up. If the a value is negative, it's going to be opening down. And let's use that to help us on future problems. So here we go. Let's graph this quadratic trinomial. How do we graph it? Well, you need to find the most important point first. So you probably want to jot this down in your notebook or on a piece of paper. And the first thing to do is to find the vertex. And of course, a vertex is a coordinate. And how do you find that coordinate? You're going to use the formula x equals -b over 2 times a. And when you use the formula, please replace your b and your a with parentheses. And then go back and identify your a value being 1, your b value being 8, and your c value being 16, but you don't care about c because c is not in the formula. So obviously you're going to put an 8 right here. The 8 goes right in there. And the a value is 1. Put a 1 right there. So what do we really have? You have a -8 up on top over a 2 times 1, that's 2. So you really have a -8 divided by +2. That means that your x value of your vertex is -4. So that's your x value. So -4 is your x value. You still need your y value. So once you have your x, how do you find your y? You simply plug it in. Okay, so plug it into what? Plug it into the original. So you're going to rewrite it. It's going to be y equals x squared plus 8x plus 16. And notice that when I said x, I wrote parentheses. Why? Because we know what x is. X is -4, so you're going to plug in that -4 in the parentheses. And then you're going to do the math. You could type this in exactly the way it is into the calculator, and it will do all the work for you. Or you could use the correct order of operations, PEMDAS. You would start with parentheses, but there's nothing to do inside the parentheses. Then you move on to e exponents. And when you do -4 in parentheses to the second power, -4 times -4 is +16. And then after exponents, you move on to multiplication. Right here, you have 8 times -4. Well, how about a +8 times a -4? That's a -32. And then you bring down the +16. And then you add and subtract at the very end. So if you think about 16 take away 32, that's actually a -16. And -16 plus 16 is 0. So the vertex y value is 0. Okay, as after all, you just found y equals 0, right? Y equals 0. So that's the most important point. Once you do all this work on your piece of paper, now you'll be able to get your mouse, your cursor, and drag one of these and go to the location -1, 2, 3, 4, and 0 on the y. So you'd put a dot right there. You leave it there. Okay. Now, after that, you need more points. So you could, if you wanted to, go to an input-output table, an XY table, or even better, recognize that because it has an a value of 1, you know it's opening up. And because the a value is 1, that means that you could use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, right? That same pattern that we've been talking about. There it is. When the a value is 1, use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. So what does that mean? That you're going to go from that vertex, you're going to go 1 over from the vertex, 1 over and 1 up, and you're going to put a dot right there. And you're going to go back to the vertex, and you're going to go 2 over, 4 up. So back from the vertex, 1, 2 over, and 1, 2, 3, 4 up. And you go back to, whoops, 2 over and 1, 2, 3, 4 up. And you go back to the vertex, and you go 3 over, 1, 2, 3, and 9 up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And of course, there is axis of symmetry here that allows you to reflect it to the other side, but you can't really draw it on the screen. But you just need to know that you could plot another point by simply reflecting, count 1 unit to be on that axis of symmetry and go 1 unit this way and put a dot right there. And the other one is clearly 2 units away, so you would go 2 units this way, right? So you go 2 units this way, 1, 2, on the axis of symmetry, 1, 2, put the dot there. And last but not least, from this one, it's 1, 2, 3 to the axis of symmetry, 1, 2, 3 to the axis of symmetry. And voila, that is your parabola. You would hit enter and get full credit right there. Once again, the very first thing to do to graph any parabola is to write your vertex, right? And how do we find the vertex, which is a coordinate? You simply use the formula x equals -b over 2 times a. Replace your b and your a with parentheses, and then go back to the original quadratic trinomial equation and identify your a value of -1, your b value of 6, and the c value you don't care about because it's not in the formula. So the 6 value of 6, the b value of 6 goes up on top, the a value of -1 goes on the bottom. So what do we really have here? You have a -6 divided by a -2, right? 2 times -1 is -2. So a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So you really have your x value being 6 divided by 2 is 3. Your x value is 3. So far we know the x value of the vertex, and we now need to find the y value. How do we do that? By simply plugging it in, plug it in. So we're going to plug it into the original equation, y equals -x squared plus 6x minus 9. And of course, we are plugging in that +3. And we're going to do the math now. You could use a calculator, type it in exactly the way it is. Or you could do it by hand the way I'm going to right now. So let's begin by doing the exponent first, right? I mean, well, technically PEMDAS, you start with parentheses, but there's nothing to do inside the parentheses. So you got to do the exponent first. 3 squared is 9. This is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna circle that, put a 9, but don't forget about the negative sign that's in front. That has to come down, so you have a negative 9. And then after exponents, you're gonna do multiplication. 6 times 3 is 18, so you have plus 18, plus 18. And then you're gonna bring down the minus 9. So you really have negative 9 plus 18 minus 9. That means that y equals 0. Negative 9 plus 18 is 9. 9 take away 9 is 0. So the vertex y value is 0. Don't freak out when you get a 0. That's just the location on your y-axis. So where's this most important point, the vertex? You do this on paper, then you simply go to quizzes and drag one of these points to 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, put a dot right there. That is your vertex. Now, from here, you could do input output table, right? XY table, and then plug in some numbers into your X and plug in the numbers, do the math. But that's a lot of math. It's a lot easier to recognize that your A value is -1, which means that you are able to use the pattern that I asked you to memorize 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9 from that vertex. But you need to remember that it's opening down because of the A value being negative. Okay, so once again, the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, but it's going to be opening down. So with that said, you're gonna go get one of these points and from the vertex, go 1 over and 1 down. Why am I not going 1 over 1 up? Because the A value is negative. So you're gonna go 1 over 1 down and put that dot there. You're gonna go back to the vertex 2 over in the same direction, 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then back to the vertex 3 over, 1, 2, 3, 9 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right there. And of course, you could recognize that there's the axis of symmetry, which means you could go 1 unit this way and 1 unit over here. Or you could use the same pattern in the other direction if you wanted to, right? It's totally up to you. You want to go like, okay, 1 unit away, put a dot right there. Or you could have said, okay, my pattern was 1 over 1 down. I'm just going to do it in the other direction, 1 over 1 down. Either way, you get to that point. The other one is 2 units away. Whoops. The other one is 2 units away from the axis of symmetry. So you go 2 units away this way. And the last one is 1, 2, 3 units away from the axis of symmetry, 1, 2, 3 units away this way. Or like I mentioned before, you could have used the same pattern, but in the other direction. Instead of 1 over 1 down, you go 1 over this way and 1 down, back to the vertex 2 over 4 down, back to the vertex 3 over 9 down. Okay. For some reason, students get confused with these types of questions. I think sometimes they're so easy that you might get confused. Let's begin, like always, by first finding the vertex. And the vertex is a coordinate. And you find that coordinate, well, you find the x value using the formula -b over 2 times a. And when you use a formula, please replace your b and your a with parentheses. And then you go back and identify your a, your b, and your c. So keep in mind that your a value is always the number in front of x squared. So in this case, the a value is 1, which tells us that it opens up and that we could use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. However, the b value is always in front of x. So the b value is not -5. This is the c value, okay? Keep in mind, if you wanted to, you could rewrite the equation y equals 1x squared. Now, since there is no x, you could put plus 0x, and then you could put the -5, the c value. That way you could clearly see that your b value is 0. So 0 goes right here, a value is 1. So you really have a -0 divided by 2. Any type of 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So x is really 0. That's your x value of your vertex. And of course, once you have your x, you simply plug it in, okay? So we're gonna plug in x value, the x value of 0 into the original equation. The original equation reads y equals x squared minus 5. And if you plug in that 0 right there, 0 squared is 0, and 0 minus 5 is -5. So we know that the y value is -5 of our vertex, -5. So once you have this most important point, once you do all this work on your paper, then you go to your Chromebook and you plot that point, that most important point, 0, -5. So 0, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you put a dot right there. And then from there, you could go for XY table and plug in some numbers and pull out some answers, which is not what I recommend. I recommend that you recognize that when your A value is 1, you could use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Okay. So this is opening up. So we are going to be going 1 over, 1 up. So you get one of these points and you go 1 over from the vertex, 1 up. And you go back and you go 2 over, 4 up, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you go back to the vertex and go 3 over, 9 up. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 right there. And then of course you have to map those points over to the other side of the axis of symmetry. So you're going to take one of these and go 1 unit this way, take another one, go 2 units to get to the axis of symmetry, 2 units this way, back to the last point, map it over 1, 2, 3 units, 1, 2, 3 units, and voila, you have your parabola. Okay. Now, I don't know if you guys appreciate this pattern, but it really saves you so much time. I mean, imagine if I were to plug in the number 1 for my x, 1 squared is 1, 1 take away 5 is a -4, and you would barely have 1 point right there. That'd be the location 1, -4. That's the point right there. See that? So we're able to get this point without even doing any math, right? Or all these points, we're able to do all these points without doing any math. The only math you do have to do is find that vertex. Once again, on this question, you want to graph this thing, you're going to start by finding the vertex, which is a nice, beautiful coordinate. And you find that nice, beautiful coordinate by using the formula x equals -b over 2 times a. When you use it, replace the b and the a with parentheses. And you go back to your original quadratic trinomial and identify that the b is 6 and that the a is -1. So 6 goes in here, -1 goes right there. So what we really have here is a -6 divided by a -2, which means that the x value of our vertex is +3. That's the x value. What do you do next? You find the y value. How? Plug it in. That's what you do. So we're going to plug it into the original equation. Y equals -x squared plus 6x minus 9. Okay. So we are plugging in that x value of 3 right there and right there. You're going to begin with parentheses, which there's nothing to do. Then you move on to e exponents. 3 squared, that's not a -3. The -3 is out in the front. It's a 3 squared, which is a 9. Then you bring down that negative. And then after exponents, you do multiplication. 6 times 3 is 18. Then you bring down that -9. So -9 plus 18 minus 9 ends up being 0. Okay. So the y value equals 0, and that's okay. Don't freak out. That will be the most important point, 3, 0. So plot that point. Just go to 3 on the x, 0 on the y, put a dot there, and that is your vertex right there. Now we need more points, so you could go to XY table, or you could recognize that the a value is -1, which means you could use a pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, but it's going down instead of up. So we're going to go 1 over, 1 down, back to the vertex, 2 over, 1, 2, 3, 4 down, back to the vertex, 3 over, 1, 2, 3, 9 down. And then, of course, you're going to map those over to the other side of the axis symmetry, 1 unit away. This one is 2 units away. And the last one is 1, 2, 3 units away, 1, 2, 3 units away. And we are done. Once again, let's begin with the vertex. Vertex. How do you find that vertex? You start with the formula. X equals -b over 2 times a. When you use it, replace b and a with parentheses. Go back to your original equation, identify your b and your a. Remember that a is always in front of x squared and b is always in front of x. So in this case, you don't have a c value, but you don't care because there is no c in the formula. So you really have a 4 right there for the b value and a 1 right there. So you really have a -4 divided by 2. So the x value is really a -2. The x value of the vertex, that is -2. So once you know the x and you want the y, how do you figure that out? Plug it in. Plug it in. How about that? So here we go. We're going to rewrite it. Y equals x squared plus 4x, and there is no c value, and you are plugging in a -2 into those parentheses. So you're going to do the math. -2 in parentheses squared, that's +4. And then over here, 4 times -2, that's a -8. So y really equals a -4. So your vertex, your most important point is at the location -2, -4, -2, -4. So once again, you do this work, whoops, I'm sorry. You do this work on paper, and then you simply plug in uh, your points on quizzes. So you're going to go -2, -1, 2, 3, 4, right there. That's your vertex. And then you are going to use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9 because the a value is 1, and it is going up because it's positive. 1 over 1 up. And then you go back to the vertex, 2 over 4 up. That would be right there at 0. And then back to the vertex, 3 over 1, 2, 3, 9 up. That's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 right there. Then you're going to map those over to the other side. So this guy gets mapped over to 1 unit this way. This guy gets mapped over 1, 2 units, 2 units this way. This guy gets mapped over, oh man, whoops. This one gets mapped over 3 units. And voila, you are done. That's how you graph this. Of course, if you're graphing on paper, you would actually draw your parabola going through these points with arrows on it, like so, and make it more curvy like a U. Anyways, on quizzes, you just plot those 7 points. That's what we're asking for. Hit submit, and you'll get full credit. Let's start with the vertex. And the vertex is a coordinate. You find that coordinate using x equals -b over 2 times a. Negative parenthesis over 2 times parenthesis. Once you fill out that formula on your paper, identify your b value of -2 and your a value of -1. You have -2 as your b, -1 as your a, and you do the math. Up on top, you have a -2, which is really a +2, and on the bottom, you have 2 times -1, which is a -2. So x equals a positive divided by negative is a -2 divided by 2 is 1. X equals -1. You have the x value of your vertex, -1. Now you want the y value. How do you find the y? Simply plug it in, okay? So we're going to plug in the -1 into the original equation. Y equals -x squared minus 2x minus 6. We're plugging in a -1 into the parentheses, and now we're doing the math. You could either type it all in on a calculator, or you could do the exponent. -1 times -1 is +1, but it does have a negative sign in front that comes down. So you really have a -1. After exponents, you do multiplication. So if you go -2 times -1, that's a +2. Let's not forget about that -6 at the very end, bring that down. And for your final step, you add and subtract from left to right. So if we think about this, -1 plus 2, that is 1, and 1 minus 6 is -5. So we found out that y equals -5. So -1, -5 is the most important point of this graph. So let's plot that point, -1, -5, put that dot there. Now, then after that, you ask yourself, is this opening up or down? Because the a value is negative, it's opening down. And the a value is -1, so that means that we could use the pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9. Now notice that the instructions here, it says plot 5 points. I wonder why instead of 7. Well, think about it. If you're using the pattern 1 over, 1 down, you'd be right there. And then if you use the next part, 2 over, 4 down, 1, 2, 3, 4 down. And if you try to do that last one, 3 over 9 down, 1, 2, 3, 9 down, you're going to be off this graph. So that's why it only says the plot 5 points, right? You have 1, 2, 3 so far. All you got to do is map it over to the other side, map it over to the other side, and you'll have a total of 5 points. So let's do that. We're just going to map this over right there and grab this one and map it over 1, 2, 1, 2. There you go. So those 5 points would give you full credit on this one. Of course, the parabola has more points. It doesn't fit on this graph. Last question we're doing on this video. Once again, we're going to begin with the vertex. And in order to find that vertex, you're going to use a formula. And when you use a formula, please use parentheses before plugging in. Once you have that set up, identify your b value, which in this case is 18, and your a value, which is +1. So what you really have here is negative 18 divided by 2. So the x value of your vertex is negative 9. Once you have that x value, plug it in. So you have your equation, the original equation, y equals x squared plus 18x plus 90. A lot of people freak out with that 90. Don't worry about it though. Let's plug in that negative 9 right in there. And of course, it'd be a good idea to use the calculator. If you type it in perfectly, the way I did right here, everything exactly the way it looks like, and then hit equal, it'll give you the answer 9. So we just found out that y equals 9. So we have the vertex x value of negative 9 and the vertex y value of positive 9. So we can move this calculator out of the way since we already used it. So let's go to the location negative 9, positive 9. Negative 9, positive 9 is up here. That's your vertex. Now, we do know that it is opening up, okay? Now, a lot of people think, well, what the heck? We're not going to fit anything right here. But notice the instructions say only plot 3 points. So if you use a pattern 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, because a value is positive 1, you go 1 over 1 up, and you would put a dot right there. And if you map that over to the other side or go 1 over 1 up in the other direction, it would be right there. And that is it. They're only asking for 3 points. We have 3 points. Yes, technically, if you were graphing on paper, you would draw your arrows going this way because it is a parabola that opens up at that vertex of negative 9, positive 9.